Lunch Money. I'm your host, Nakima Boelware, Business Development Executive, and my co host for this episode is Evelyn Johnson, Branch Manager at our Eastdale branch in Montgomery. In this episode, you'll get bite sized advice on credit and why it's important, how credit impacts your life, and 3 credit habits of money smart people. Don't forget to connect with us when you're done. Remember, Guardian Credit Union is your partner through every stage of your financial journey. Well, Evelyn, why don't you share with us what's on the menu today?
Today on the menu, we will talk about credit and how it reports, how do credit impact lives, and we will wrap it up with a money tip, credit habits of money smart people.
Well, in order for us to get started, we first must understand the definition of credit. Credit is the ability to borrow money or access goods and services with the understanding that you'll pay later. So basically, lenders are granting you credit based on the confidence that you can be trusted to pay back what you borrowed, along with the finance charge that may apply. To that extent, the creditors consider you worthy of their trust and you're considered to be credit worthy. So let's think about that. Remember back in the day, Evelyn, when, your grandparents or uncles or aunts would tell you how they were able to just walk into their financial institution and tell someone what they wanted, they could just shake hands. They shook hands and their word was it. So in the past, we gauge your credit worthiness based on your reputation.
Or your word.
Right. These days, creditors prefer a more objective approach.
You're right, Nakima. In today's society, your credit history is summarized in files known as credit reports compiled by 3 independent credit bureaus. Do you happen to know those 3 credit bureaus?
Indeed, I do. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
You're absolutely correct. Credit unions, banks, credit card issuers, and other creditors voluntarily report your borrowing and repayment information to the credit bureaus. If you notice, I stated voluntarily. That is the key word because not all creditors report to each credit bureau. So you may see where a credit card reports to TransUnion, but it's not necessarily reporting to Equifax. And that's normally the case because it's based off where you are at the time you extend the credit.
Absolutely.
Now, for those of you who may not know, your credit report includes important information used to determine your credit worthiness. There go that word again, credit worthiness. Your credit report includes your payment history along with your balances on your credit cards and or secured or unsecured loans. Unfortunately, it also includes any financial setbacks such as mortgage foreclosures, car repossessions, and bankruptcies.
Absolutely. And while understanding that what each of the bureaus report is important, knowing what type of credit shows up on those reports is important as well. So let's look at the types of credit. The most familiar type of credit is revolving credit. And that credit does not have a fixed number of payments and it's replenished as debts are paid off. An example of revolving credit would be credit cards or a line of credit. Now, let me dig a little deeper with that one. So, for example, you have a credit card that has $1,000 limit on it. Well, you have $1,000 to use. Let's say that you put $200 on that credit card. Well, the additional $800 is still available for you to use because with revolving credit, you can use what's already extended to you. Now, let's say you make your minimum payment. Well, as you make that payment, you're also extending the credit to you that in the amount of that payment. Say you pay all the $200 off, now the $1,000 is still available to you to use. Hence the word revolving. As you pay and it becomes available, it revolves and becomes available for you to use.
You're right. The second most familiar type of credit is installment credit. Installment credit is a loan for a specific sum of money you agree to repay in monthly payments over a set period of time. For example, auto loan, personal loans, student loans, and even mortgages.
Now, Evelyn, this is a really good pause break for us. Go ahead and utilize your worksheet that we provided for you and make sure that you're listing the information and providing and entering the definitions that we're giving you because it's going to be a great tool for you to use in the future. And also know that you can still use that chat function and go ahead and submit questions that we're going to answer for you during the question and answer. Now, when you think about the information that we've talked about, we also have to remember that being credit worthy is necessary if you plan to borrow money. Now we have to think about how does credit impact your life?
Well, Nakima, today we want to show an example of how credit impacts your life. In this particular example, we will use Lucy and Joe. Lucy is what we consider A credit here at Guardian Credit Union, and Joe is what we consider C credit here at Guardian Credit Union. Both Lucy and Joe will be purchasing a used car for $6,000. They both plan to put down $500, and they both plan to have a term of 5 years.
Okay.
With Lucy being considered A credit, she will pay 4.2% in interest, okay? Joe, which we consider C credit, he will pay 15% in interest. So at the end of the loan term, Lucy will pay a total of $607 in interest, and Joe will pay a total of $2,351 in interest. Big difference, right?
Absolutely.
Lucy paying $600, a little over $600. Joe paying a little over $2,000. That's a difference of a little over $1,700. So do you see the difference it makes?
Absolutely. And that's a huge difference when I'm thinking about how it's going to impact my daily life. I mean, that's going to definitely go into how much my monthly payment's actually going to be, right?
And more so because here at Guardian, we look at the full picture of things.
Absolutely. Now, when we're thinking about how lenders narrow down the lending decisions that they're making to be able to provide you credit, it's usually determined in a 3-digit number known as your credit score. And that's typically the first step that they take when they're determining if you're credit worthy and they want to lend you money. Now, let's see what makes up your credit score. Payment history is number one. Of course, payment history is always going to be the most important. It's 35% of your credit score. And payment history is important because, hey, if it's set for you to make this payment, we need for you to pay it. Hence, we're trusting you with this credit because you said that you were going to pay us back. So making sure you're making your payments on time is so important.
And what you owe is number two. It makes up 30% of your credit score. And what you owe is basically what it is, what you owe. So if you have a credit card and you have a balance on that credit card, is that balance. Or if you have a remaining balance on your mortgage, is what you still owe on that mortgage.
Absolutely. Length of credit history is important, although it's only 15% of your credit score. If it's relatively new credit, sometimes it can be, we need to let this stay out here a little bit longer so that we can ensure that you are going to continue to make that payment. But if you have a lengthy credit history, which shows that you've made payments, you've gotten loans, you've had credit cards, and you've made those payments on time, and what you owe is not too high, we're able to utilize that information to help ensure that you're still considered credit worthy.
The type of credit also makes up your credit score, and the weight on that is 10%. When I say type of credit, remember we mentioned two prior, and the two were revolving credit and installment credit. I also want to throw out there that real estate is included in the type of credit as well.
And new credit and inquiries is 10%, but they go hand in hand. You want to ensure that you're not out here applying for new credit every single day, that you're responsible with how you're utilizing your credit. And then also with the inquiries, be mindful. I know for me, as I started my journey, I was, before I knew where I wanted to be financially, I used to go into department stores, and if it was a sale and I could gain an extra 20% off, hey, let me go ahead and apply for that in-store card. But now I know that those inquiries add up pretty quickly. And even though it's only 10%, we have to be responsible and mindful of how often we're allowing someone to pull our credit.
Absolutely.
Well, once again, we're super excited that we've come down to our closing topic, which is our tips that we're going to give you today. But before we do so, we want to make sure that if you have any questions, you go ahead and submit them, because we're about to transition into the question and answer portion, and we don't want to leave you out, okay? So let's talk about our credit habits of money smart people.
All right. We want to leave you with 3 tips today, and that's pay your bills on time, don't overextend your credit, and monitor your credit.
All 3 very great habits for money smart people, Evelyn. Paying your bills on time is just that simple. Whatever day your bills are due, that's the day you need to pay them. Period. Don't overextend your credit. Listen, just because you have $5,000 available to you doesn't mean you have to spend the $5,000. Be mindful of how much credit that you're allowing yourself to extend, and monitoring your credit, which is a huge one for me. I think, again, once I started my credit journey, I didn't realize how important it was to monitor my credit and know where I was at each time, at each moment. And I love Guardian and our Savvy Money tool that we use for our members. We're we're able to track where you are, tell you what's important, what your credit report looks like, what's on it, and help you build a plan to really get to that financial success that you're looking to get to.
We also would like to see you in the branch. Whether you're a member or a non-member, stop by any local Guardian credit union and we'll be more than happy to help you monitor your credit.